Hey, hello! Welcome to Tú Cuentas Cine Youth Fest Awards Show. We get paid for every word. I'm your host, Lorena Russi. With me is Jessie Fuentes. You guys, this is a special 30-minute live stream, can you believe? Never been done before. That showcases the powerful stories of young, independent Latinx filmmakers, which we love, through this online festival, which is brought to you by HITN. So this is actually the first HITN online film festival that features, what I like to consider progressive work of emerging young Latinx filmmakers. And they're from all across the United States. And we're kicking it off during Hispanic Heritage Month.
Yes, this festival celebrates Latinx stories with many topics. We're talking arts and culture, technology, social justice, education, and many more through short films produced for and by Latinos, representing independent voices, communities, states across the countries, Puerto Rico, representing positive change and tales of heroism. Tu Cuentas Cine Youth Fest aims to connect and empower new Latinx filmmakers with opportunities, resources, community, information to help amplify on and off the screen. And we are extremely privileged to be in the presence of these individuals and to provide visibility to you all.
Now, I do want to say that this is a special program. It's never been done before. And during this program, we're going to highlight the top films and we're going to feature interviews with internationally acclaimed judges from actually countries we've never even heard of. And we're also going to announce honorable mentions, student prize, and the grand prize winners. Incredible.
Lorena, can you believe it's been 7 months that
No,
you and I have
no,
been
I
leading
cannot.
a conversation among X during this festival with some of the most talented people I've ever met in my life, having many short stories to share. Some of the conversations have included imagination in the time of the pandemic, addressing Latinx invisibility. I mean, invisibility is a real issue when we're talking about film, theater, arts, and culture, and really being able to celebrate who we are and where we come from through these means. We've discussed films, festivals, and Latinx filmmakers, and how to submit during the winning entry. Let's take a look at some of the panels and experts who participated.
Welcome to Conversations Among X.
The thing about films that I think really inspires me is seeing how other creatives create.
We tend to operate separately when in fact we have more in common.
Coffee, Zoom, we will meet each other, but we will be there for each other and just like make phone calls and emails.
An amazing experience.
The stories are gonna be so much richer, I think, when there are many different perspectives.
Because it's super important for us to be able to watch these films and digest them with family and friends.
In a lot of more recent films, there has been a little bit of a change.
It is not too late to break the invisibility by making your project visible.
Not only that we tell stories that our community can relate to, but we can showcase our food, our culture, our music.
When I think of invisibility in terms of being a Latino artist, what comes to mind is the experience of releasing an album.
So my generation, we didn't see much of anything, but it was wonderful to see how we did our best to start theaters to be visible.
So thank you so much again and have a wonderful Wednesday. Oh, that's my alarm. I have to go.
Wow, I really need to buy more t-shirts. Okay, you guys, if you didn't know, we received actually more than 400 films and we had jurors that had to decide, specifically 7. So I want to give a shout out to all those 7 jurors. We got Freddie Marrero, we got Paloma Suau, Tammy Gold, Raul Torres, Sophie Gordon, Julio Ramos, and Liliana Espinoza, who had, just the impossible task of figuring out who the winners are. And now I'm going to introduce 3 of those people. You actually have to guess. Part of the game is you have to guess who I'm going to pick from that list. But I want to welcome to the stage. There's a stage. You just have to look for it. I want to welcome Sophie Gordon, the film programmer and filmmaker based in Chicago, Illinois. A little applause. I want to welcome Julio Ramos, graduated from the University of Puerto Rico, has worked as an actor, has worked as a director, has worked as a set designer. I just give up because that's incredible. And then, of course, I want to welcome Liliana Espinosa, who basically my cousin from another mother. What? She's currently the projects director at the National Association of Latino Independent Producers, aka NALIP. I love you guys. Guys, thank you so much for being here. Round of applause. It's so exciting. So Jessie and I have some questions for you because, okay, we're very like chismosas. And so I just want, the first one is probably the most like she's like aunties talking. Can you please comment on the voting process? And please give me the most glamorous and least glamorous answers.
In terms of the voting process, I thought it was very well streamlined, that each one had its own, document where we can document everything that was going on. So that for me was very easy. But at the same time, it was very difficult to be able to, judge every individual project because they had so many different elements to them. And it was just great to see the films across the board. Inspirational for me. I started older in this industry, so seeing all these, young artists really inspired me, and it made the voting process very difficult for me personally.
For me, the voting process was really great. It was really incredible to have the privilege to watch all of these amazing films. And I thought it was most interesting about the kind of things we were asked to evaluate and to think about as we were watching the films, that there were many things that we, wanted to examine and comment on, a lot of them being technical or story aspects. But in the end, all of these aspects of the films really tied into primarily creativity and emotional impact. And I really love that way of thinking about film because it has so much to do with feeling, both on the side of the creator, of the filmmaker, but also on the side of the audience. And that was a really amazing way to think about these films as we were watching them.
Yes, Julio?
Pues saludos a todos. My English is not very good, so maybe I will speak Spanish to express my better. Primero quiero felicitar al festival por tener esta iniciativa de un cine juvenil, ¿no? No es muy común que esto suceda en diferentes lugares y eso le brinda una oportunidad a los jóvenes para comenzar a desarrollarse en esta carrera, en este mundo, desde muy temprana edad. Ya hubiese querido yo, ¿no? Cuando yo comencé, pues yo comencé muy tarde, ya a los 20 años, cuando estudié teatro. Pero el comenzar desde más joven, tener esta oportunidad de participar en festivales. Antes era muy complicado tener, ¿verdad?, una cámara, pero ahora con los teléfonos y con las cámaras pues es más simple. Así que tienes una herramienta muy eficaz para tú poder contar tus historias, ¿no? Tu experiencia, cuando son documentales pues ya es una cosa de una experiencia, de unas vivencias que tienes en tu comunidad, en tu entorno, y poder expresarla. Cuando es ya más de ficción, pues tienes tu imaginación abierta para contar las historias que tú quieras.
Yeah, so let's talk about the next topic. When we watch films and when we receive them, we're all shocked by many of the issues and topics that filmmakers choose to take on. I'm interested in hearing from all of the judges what you were surprised by the most and why. Liliana, why don't you kick us off?
I was definitely surprised to see such depth, right, to all of these impactful stories. And then you took everything that was happening, everything, so relevant to the times, and the way that these young artists were expressing themselves. This was the way for them to take out their anger, frustration, everything that they were feeling during this pandemic. And I thought that was, I saw so many of those types of stories, but so differently. So for me, I was definitely, pleasantly surprised to see how, it was not cliched, to say that. It was just very different point of views, all just expressing what these, young filmmakers have been experiencing and feeling on all different levels, because we're all individuals, we're all different. We are part of this Latinx community where people like to paint us with one brushstroke, but we're all very different. And I think that came across very clear. And every single subject matter dealt with something very heavy and deep, a lot of them, even when it was lighthearted, right, through the film, like a dark comedy or whatever the case may be. But that subject matter had a lot of weight to it, and it really, resonated.
But Sophie, for you, what surprised you most about the films? I think everyone here is talking about how there was a maturity about the films. There was a sense of poetry, which, yes, I felt as well. I'm like, how old are these children? Are they 75 submitting? What's going on? But for you, what was refreshing? What was surprising? Did you have any takeaways?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like everyone's been saying, I also was very curious about the age of the filmmakers. It wasn't something that I felt like I needed to be able to watch the films and think about them and evaluate with them, but it was something I was very curious about, partially because of this immense level of maturity. And ultimately, that's kind of what ended up surprising me the most. And what impacted me the most were especially particular stories that dealt with protagonists in situations that are way beyond their years and that force them to grow up very quickly, or they're just interacting with their parents or with adult situations. Those were really impactful for me. There were 3 films in particular that I was thinking about that really dealt with this head on, but all of the films in a particular way had this level of maturity that was incredibly inspiring and fascinating to watch. And so these perspectives, protagonists, and thinking about these young filmmakers making films about young people in situations that force them to grow up very quickly. It's fascinating and can sometimes be really devastating seeing the ways in which young people are often put in situations that make them need to assume responsibilities that might not be, that might be beyond the age that they're in. And so that was something that really, really affected me when I was watching these films, is thinking about both the filmmakers and their protagonists telling stories far beyond their years. And that was really incredible to watch.
Yes, I first of all want to thank you, Sophie, and all of the judges for your critical lens, your time, your energy, and having your hearts open to art and a narrative that's told by young people, often a narrative that we don't listen to or take seriously, and to know that you all took it seriously and enjoyed the art that was produced. I want to thank you all and for taking the time to do this culminating event with us, and for taking the time in the last few weeks to judge those. It is time now to take a look at the most popular themes during Cine Youth Fest. Let's take a look. And now it's time to announce the winners. But first, remind you what the Cine Youth Fest prizes are. We got honorable mentions, 9 specialized classes to be awarded. Whoa, okay. Voters' Choice Award, $100 Apple gift card. Okay, you can get some batteries, great. Student prize, $2,000. And then grand prize, $5,000. Okay. Whew. And as a reminder, you can watch all final of the 28 films on our website. And, obviously your votes counted, which is why
we're doing this whole thing, and you guys had the opportunity to vote on the Voters' Choice winner on social media, and the winner is Nuestros Rostros, directora Damaris Calderón. There's a stage here. I don't know. This makes me feel good.
Yes. No, thank you, Lorena. And, we are super proud for everyone who put in their efforts, all 20 films that made it, and our grand prize winner. Now, chosen by our jury, the honorable mentions.
Whew.
The Williamsburg Italian Feast, Erica Starr Domena. Hirviendo, Wendy Medina Herrera. Miracle of Love by Josue Vera. It happened in East LA. A lot of things happened in East LA. Yes, Victor Aguilar. Senora Ociono, Omar de Leon. Pandemates, Devin Redmond. And at a tie, you guys. Amor Encerrado, Nori Gonzalez. Oda a las Frijoles, Ode to the Beans, Carolina Esqueda. I want to congratulate everyone. Your stories, your voices, your ability to critically shape these narratives for everyone to see and open their hearts to. You're important, your film's important. And now, a quote from our student prize winning director.
To act as a translator or interpreter as a kid was a common experience for my friends and family, for the majority of my community, so my film acts as validation for every one of our experiences in the matter.
So let's welcome Yesenia.
Hi everyone, I'm Yesenia. Thank you so much for having me. It's truly an honor and a pleasure to be here with all of you.
You are our student prize winner for Double Cultura. That is a phenomenal feat. You have to tell us, how did you find out about Cine Youth Fest?
I found out about Cine Youth Fest through my school. I recently just graduated from Pratt Institute, and they send out these weekly or monthly newsletters with a bunch of opportunities where I could submit my film, and one of them was Cine Youth Fest. So I knew that this was a perfect fit for me, and I'm super, super glad that I submitted, because now I'm here with all of you.
Yes, you are a student at Pratt Institute. We know you're a phenomenal film producer that we have seen. Tell us a little bit more about yourself. Where are you from? Tell us, who is Yesenia?
Dang, you really want to know. I am Yesenia. I grew up and I was born and raised in Northern California. I kind of already had my eyes set on Pratt, I think my senior year of high school, but I took a year at a state school here just to save some money, and then I transferred. So I did my bachelor's at Pratt in New York, which was really life-changing for me. I don't regret it one bit. And I think it kind of just opened my eyes to what I wanted to do, in the future, which is to make films, to tell stories, to edit, produce, direct, and do it all, really. So that's me.
Where are your parents from? How did they inform who you are and everything you dream of doing in your life?
Both my parents are from Mexico, so I grew up in a Mexican household here in the US, particularly in Northern California. So my entire childhood was about learning about my culture, but being here in America, being here in the US. So having that hyphen really means a lot to me. Being Mexican American is something that I really hold deeply to my identity and to who I am. I kind of had a culture shock though, because I grew up in an area where I think at least half of the people here were Mexican or Mexican American, like specifically Mexican. So I didn't really know what I was, or I didn't know that labels were a thing until I actually moved to New York. So I really just I took that for granted, because when I left, I didn't really see a lot of me. And I take so much pride in being a child of an immigrant, being child of immigrants. Both my parents are really been supportive of me. They've taught me so much of my values, my morals. I couldn't be. It's such an honor to be a child from them. So.
Double cultura is an experience that most Latinx folks from migrant parents experience, right? That always having to translate, making sure your parents are good. And you produce this film that really eloquently walks people through that lived experience. Tell us about the process when you're putting Double Cultura together. How do you choose your actors? Where do you get the young girl from? Where do you get the young mother? How do you make that choice knowing that for you and your film is the perfect fit?
Yeah. Well, initially, the film was a 3-part story, or 4-part, I guess, and I wanted you to walk through the different levels of of anxiety that comes from being a translator so young. I originally had a scene that's not in the film, where the mom walks in and hands her kid a bunch of envelopes, a bunch of mail, and tells her to just translate it for her while she's cooking. So it's very mundane. It's only just them two. It's very, very low leveled, but it's just reading some papers to her.
Absolutely. And thank you for such a meaningful response. Thank you for your film. Thank you for being who you are and bringing authenticity and lived experience to the realm of film and production. Yesenia, I want to congratulate you again because you're phenomenal. And I hope that we see future editions from you to Cine Youth Fest, because our audience deserves films like yours, and you deserve this platform. So thank you again. I hope to see you and all of your projects soon. I want to hand it back to my co-host, Lorena.
Well, I'm quitting the biz. You guys, we're now going to meet the grand prize winner of the Cine Youth Fest, and that is Paloma Sierra.
As a born and raised Puerto Rican who also has lived in the diaspora, I'm well aware of the tensions between those who live on the island and outside of it. As Puerto Ricans, we often sing our lungs out saying, "Yo sería borincano aunque naciera en la luna," yet fail to put this belief into practice. I wrote and produced the video poem, "I'm Soil Breaking Off," in response to this reality. It is my hope that, in the future, we can acknowledge that Puerto Ricans can exist, thrive, and grow both in our beautiful island and outside of it.
And now I'm going to bring out Paloma Sierra, the grand prize winner for I Am Soil Breaking Off. Paloma!
Hi, it's nice to be here and meet you as well.
Oh my gosh, it's nice to be there. I love your apartment. We're kind of all in the same place. Paloma, first of all, congratulations. This is huge. Can you just tell everyone a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, so I'm a Puerto Rican born and raised writer. I write poetry, plays, screenplays, and musical theater and opera. And basically, I'm Soil Breaking Off is a video poem I created during the pandemic, trying to expand, from writing poetry or stuff for the stage, but trying to think how I can, adapt to remote presentations and how I can explore other types of mediums to present my work.
Well, girl, you adapted. Very well. Dude, it's so good. I want to talk about the metaphor in your film. So you talk about the use of national identity and migration as a mangrove seed specifically, and that seed's journey. Can you explain a little bit more what that was, where that came from, or what that means to you?
Yeah, so I'm Puerto Rican, and as a Puerto Rican, I have had the experience of living both in the island and in the US. So I've been part of the island experience and also lived in diaspora. And in having those two experiences, I've noticed how there's kind of like a tension between the Puerto Ricans that live in the island and the Puerto Ricans that live in diaspora. And in trying to communicate a way in which you know, this idealistic idea in which we both accept each other. I try to develop this metaphor
Nailed
between
it.
a mangrove
Mhm.
seed and, you know, migration and national identities. In this case, I decided to try to develop this metaphor in response to the tension I observed as a Puerto Rican between both those Puerto Ricans that live in the island and those that live in diaspora. And in developing this metaphor, I'm trying to communicate the message that, like a mangrove seed that may echar raíces far away or close to the tree where it came from, that mangrove seed is still a mangrove regardless of, you know, where it ends up being. The same goes with Puerto Ricans or any people from any other type of nationalities, where it doesn't really matter where we end up, even if it's in the country where we're from or far away from it. We carry that essence, that national identity and culture with us. And the fact that we may live far away or live in that physical geographic area doesn't make us more or less Puerto Rican, for example. We're equally
Yeah.
Puerto Rican regardless where we are.
You mentioned before that you were adapting to the pandemic, and obviously the artwork in this is stunning. So how did you decide to choose this art, to animate it? You know, how did you make this art? It's so good.
Yes. So I think whenever I write, I think very visually. However, maybe my visual abilities are not the best. However, I do love collaboration, and whenever I write, whether that's for stage or poetry, I'm always looking to collaborate with composers. And in this case, I wanted to expand that a little bit and try out, you know, collaborating with visual artists. And in this case, what I did for I'm Soil Breaking Off, I collaborated with a composer and an animator to produce the video poem that you're looking at right now. We also worked with someone who helped me with the audio engineering so that the sound quality is somewhat better. And this was all done remotely. I specifically chose film, but most specifically animation, because I felt it was something that I could do remotely, regardless of where my collaborators were. And most of the meetings we did were over Zoom or Google Meets. And then we did it over a course of various months, and we would meet to discuss the progress and also, you know, collaborate to develop the visual storytelling.
Paloma, thank you so much again for being here. Truly, my life has changed. I have to rethink a lot of different decisions, but it was a phenomenal film. You should be really proud of yourself. And everyone, Paloma Sierra. And now I'm going to take it away to my co-host, Jessie, and we're going to go home. We're going to get out of here.
Awesome, Lorena. Thank you for everything. And I want to thank all of the viewers. This would not be possible without Cine Youth Fest. And in order for Cine Youth Fest to be able to put this production together, I want to thank our sponsors, Northeastern Illinois University, Northeastern Illinois University Foundation, Real Works, Philadelphia Latino Film Festival, the University of Houston, Esperanza College, Manhattan Neighborhood Network, St. Francis College, the Film Club at UH, Fundación Cortés, Center for Puerto Rican Studies, and the National Association for Latino Independent Producers. Without our sponsors, we would not be here today. We thank you for believing in this project initiative and hope that we can get you back soon.
We obviously look forward to the next Cine Youth Fest in 2022, which is basically tomorrow, where we're going to provide a new showcase of diverse storytelling that inspires and drives positive change. I mean, if this one showed anything, it was exactly that. I'm Lorena Russi. That was my co-host, Jessie Fuentes. Thank you so much, and we'll see you guys. Just come on over whenever you want.